God. Do you remember flying for the first time?
Yeah, I do. I do.
What happened? Give me the story in 20
You really
seconds.
don't want to know that story.
Yeah, give me the story. Did you scream?
No, I didn't scream, but I wet myself.
You, oh, what? You did. You did.
I'm sorry.
You did what?
I was scared.
You went?
Yeah, I did.
You had to go to the bathroom?
I went. I didn't go, I went.
Anyways, guys, I hope this doesn't happen to you, getting those first-time travel jitters. Not to worry. You're in great hands with us because, you know what? We're going to give you all the things that you need to fasten those seatbelts because it's time to check in with Tanja Coleman, Diversity and Leadership Development Architect, who will be sharing a few strategy on developing or charisma. Hi, Tanja. How are you?
Hello, how are you? It's nice to meet you, and I'm happy and excited to be here.
Talk about if charisma was a person, it would be Tanja.
Oh yeah, easily. What was it like for you the first time you traveled? Like you had to travel?
Well, I have not traveled on a flight since COVID, but prior to that, I was a flight attendant, so I was accustomed to flying all the time.
Yeah. Okay, but the first time you ever traveled, what was that experience like?
And it was fun because I was young. I was young. So my mom and I used to travel quite a bit, and we would leave my dad at home because he had to work to fund our travel. And and we would just hop on a plane and have a blast.
I don't know how charisma and traveling works, but you know, how would charisma help me with my travel jitters? Tell me.
Absolutely. So charisma has so much to do with your entire travel experience, from being in the waiting area at the airport and actually making connections. There's a lot of opportunity that people miss when they travel because they're really focused only on themselves versus being focused on other people. So if you think of kind of this simple model of charisma when you're out in public, regardless if you're traveling or you're at a networking event or a party, always kind of think of the rap effect, right? We all understand and know rap, and we all try to do it and think that we're good at it. But when you think about it in this context, you're really thinking about three major pillars. And am I executing that at given times? So one is relatability. Are you being relatable? Do people align with you? Are you telling a great story? Are you a good listener? And then the other piece is authenticity. Do people like you? Do they trust you? When you laugh, do they feel like you're laughing with them or laughing at them? It's a big difference, right? And we all know people that we say are disingenuous, and we're like, yeah, right, okay. And then the fourth pillar is the people aspect. Are you people oriented? Do you enjoy really being around others? Do you have great communication skills? Do you have the ability to engage in others? And are you really focused on deep level conversation and have the ability to be empathetic versus ego driven?
Yeah, a lot of these things that you just mentioned, from my experience growing up, it's sometimes innate. It's sometimes you're born with that kind of charisma where people see you and they're like, oh, yo, I like this girl, I like this guy. Their energy, that word, it's off the chain. But can you learn to be like that?
Absolutely. Very few people are actually born with charisma. It's usually learned through your experiences in your environment and how people relate to you, but also how you relate to others. And so oftentimes this is developed over time. We learn to be good listeners. We discipline ourselves to be authentic. I do think an inherent piece might be the empathy piece. I think a lot of folks are innately born with more empathy than others, but that's something that can be taught as well. And so when you think of charisma, it's a continuation of development for yourself throughout the years. Are you, and now many of you and many of the viewers have heard a lot about storytelling. People have packaged storytelling up and they're selling it as courses and classes, right? So a lot of charisma is around storytelling and having the ability to tell those stories. And one of the people that I think about that has just an insane amount of charisma, right, is First Lady Michelle Obama, right? So when she wrote her book, the book was great. But when she went on her book tour, she brought that book to life with the stories and how she was able to communicate and tell those stories in a way that was very relatable. So even though those things didn't happen to you specifically, you absolutely understood where she was coming from and you related to those stories.
For sure.
I love that. You know, most people would think that charisma has to do with being excited all the time. And not necessarily, no, it's true. And not necessarily in the way that you've broken it down, which I really, really love, being relatable, being authentic, you know, and I love the part about being empathetic. But is there a point where charisma becomes too much?
It can be annoying. At some given points in time. And that's why it's important to be able to gauge your audience, gauge a room, gauge a conversation, and be able to really tell where people are mentally. And so I will use myself as a great example. I had a friend that called me and she said, oh my goodness, I can't talk to you right now. You're just too happy. You're too excited. I'm not in that space. I can't share it with you. So I'm going to gracefully disconnect. So for her, it was a little much. So there are times, though, that you can tone it down and really tap into that listening. That's when you really tap into the empathy. And most people also jump from listening to problem solving. So you're telling them a story and all of a sudden they're solving everything for you, despite the fact that you haven't asked them to do that. You really just want good ears.
I think I'm guilty of that sometimes. I'm sorry. Because I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? Okay, let's solve it.
Right, right.
We can't stay at the problem. Let's just get to a solution and move on.
Yeah.
Especially if you heard the story more than once.
And that's the difficult part. If I hear the story over and over at different intervals, I just want to fix it, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And now thinking about charisma and thinking about people in leadership, do you think that people who are charismatic tend to get away with things more than others because they're charismatic?
Of course, absolutely. We see it with stars and with individuals who have high profiles. We see it with politicians. Some politicians can get away with the most and others try to emulate that and it's just does not work. And that's where that authenticity comes from. Whether that authenticity is good, bad, or ugly, it's there and it's yours. And that's where too, you know, the notion of people maybe emulating you or really copying things that you do. No one can really ever do that because they're not you. They will never have your level of charisma and how you connect and how you communicate. That's a very individual personality trait that no one can emulate. They can try, but it will not come off as being genuine and being authentic. So you might as well give up.
Love that. Do you have anything that you're working on right now? I mean, you're so awesome and charismatic. I have to ask you. I mean, how can we hear more from you? Where do we follow you?
Absolutely. So my latest venture is I have developed and rolling out a leadership development program specifically for women that's called Executive Women of Command. And specifically, it's going to talk about branding and charisma and how women can really continue to build their confidence, continue to reach the strides that they want to, both personally and professionally. Because I believe that as much as there's a lot of career programs out there, we're more than our jobs. Nice. We are whole people, we have families, we have lives, and we always have to consider those things in any type of decision making. So I'm very excited to be launching that in the next couple of weeks. Most people can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on there every single day and you can DM me. I also have a website that's www.reimagineod.org. that has all of my information and contact information on there as well. So it's great.
Follow you. We're gonna follow you.
Absolutely. Please follow me. Please follow me. I also have
so much. You are
absolutely.
Awesome.
All right. So that was diversity and leadership development guru and architect Tanja Coleman. Doc, thank you so much for stopping by with us.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed being here.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Yeah. So let's all try to be a little bit more charismatic and empathetic.
Yes.
Yeah. More We Can Smile after the break.